Y'all, it is a great day to be an American. By now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. No mystery there. I just watched one of the more extraordinary news conferences that I've ever seen in the Trump era. And that was, of course, the sort of spike the football news conference just now from the extraordinary heroism of our entire system of government, actually, all the way from the White House to the man on the ground with those double rescues. We look past because it happened so quickly. The initial rescue in Iran that was happening, that had happened as this story was breaking Thursday night into Friday, and it was a big part of our show on Friday. We got this Good Friday show going, and we've got a man on the ground, and the consequences of that. It's hard for me to overstate the risks and the consequences. I mean, the entire effort in Iran could have been held hostage had they captured this pilot. Not to mention his safety, his security, how they might have tortured him, what else might have been done had this one life not been saved by hundreds of lives and everybody involved in that effort. It was a commitment to the best of our ethos here in this country that we don't leave our people behind, and it was just, it wasn't flawless. We had to blow up some planes and leave them on the ground, but that seems minimal compared to the incredibly brave effort that they all took. So let's talk about the bravery for a minute. And by now, you know the details. I could go through a TikTok of exactly how we did it, but just the risks that were taken. So what was extraordinary today was the president in that news conference, and we may have some sound bites for you later. The president said today, he was asked a question, I think by somebody on Fox News, was there anybody in your room full of advisors that didn't want to do it, that didn't want to make this daring rescue this weekend? And he said, yeah. And that's real. That was very candid. That's a real world assessment. Some military analyst will get into the risk possibilities and strategically think the risk is too high for the outcome. But then Trump had to still make the decision. He had to listen to his advisors, choose from among them, and decide what we're going to do. And he never flinched. It was like, we're going to do this. So the risk on the ground could have been hundreds of lives. Now think about this. We had air superiority. We went through our checklist on Friday as the search was underway. We talked about what were the assets. If you were listening on Friday, you heard some of that. What were the assets in our favor? What did the Iranians have in their favor? And among those assets was we controlled the skies and we were masters of the dark, and it was still nighttime, but there would be another sunrise and sunset before they could pull this mission off. The Iranians, of course, had the ability of, this is their country. They're already on the ground. And every pilot that went in the dark, they had already done a daring 7-hour of flight time to get over that country, to get over the initial pilot, to get him out into daylight when they could be seen. And I want you to consider that every pilot in the air, all the way from the helicopter guys to the A-10 Warthog guys that spray those bullets and everything on the ground, to the guys dropping bombs to create a bubble around our missing pilot, every one of them had to know that the whole reason we're having this incident is the Iranians had some very basic shoulder-fired technology that was able to take out probably a man-pad that was able to take out an F-15. So if it can hit an F-15, the more slower-moving Warthogs, the slower-moving helicopters, and all that were even more vulnerable. And they did it anyway, by the hundreds. I would dare say probably thousands of people involved in this operation before it was over. The CIA, who's taken it on the chin of late, doing a lot of undercover stuff with some poor leadership, still to this day have some incredible technology to monitor things on the ground. And the way I understand it, Trump let a little of this out of the bag too. We don't like to give up sources and methods, but that when our aviator managed to, while wounded, climb up to a 7,000-foot peak, and we don't know the original spot where he started climbing. This man's climbing a mountain. I'll put it to you this way. I tried to relate to that. We did a mountainous hike last summer on one of our foreign trips. It was in the Alps in northern Italy. It's very scary, actually, for my skill level. And I think our change in elevation was only like 3,000 feet the whole time. It almost killed me. I'm no young aviator, but to do that wounded over rocks and rocky terrain, not on a marked trail like we were doing, it just brought all that home to me. The the endurance he had to do what his training said to do was to survive the jump. That's what the SEER acronym stands for. And then evade capture. And then he's got to get himself to a hidden location. And that location, according to their training, is always to go to the highest place you can get above, so you can see what's around you and see what's approaching and hide. This guy found a crevice in a mountain up at 7,000 feet. He got into the crevice and he couldn't come out. They were all over that mountain. The Iranians were all around him the whole time. Almost 46 full hours. It was 45 hours and 56 minutes. They repeated that a lot today. That he was able to evade. He was able to treat his own wounds and survive. And he was able to get his electronic beacon equipment to give the location. But it's not 100% precise. And the thing, I'm just talking about the danger level right now. There's so much else to discuss about this mission, and I'm sure y'all have plenty of input about it. But the danger level, as soon as he hit that beacon, highly likelihood that the Iranians, who still have very sophisticated technology, were also going to know that location, that there was a beacon being emitted. But he did it and was still able to evade detection because no one could see him. But our CIA, with our satellite technology, I presume it's all satellite and optics, Trump said it, and I'm not sure they wanted him to say it, but he said, we saw a head, and then we saw it move, and then we saw him emerge. So at some point, he got out into the daylight enough so that our own satellite could detect him on the ground in this needle in a haystack search and know that it was him. Confirmed that it was him. The signal location was there, and he was able to transmit a message once they established some amount of communication. And his message was, God is good. Now, if you're Christian, we just celebrated Easter weekend, and there's so much symbolism in the rescue of this guy and the faith it took in his fellow man, and the reliance on his training and each other to get them out, and to get them out without anybody being killed or really hurt that badly. The first effort to land the bigger planes wound up with not a disaster, but the planes got stuck. Had we known this in real time, it would have horrified me, because that's what happened in the Delta mission back when the Delta Force went in to rescue our hostages in 1980. It was a sandstorm in the environment that took those helicopters out, and the mission failed. But our guys pressed on. They sent lighter folks in to back up those folks, and of course we destroyed all those aircraft. And they got him out. They got him out. They had to land in hostile fire, flying low, where even a rifle could take you out of the sky, get on the ground. It was amazing. The CIA ran a deception operation that decoyed the Iranians into thinking we were picking up a, quote, package on the water. So they had their efforts and their eyes focused away from the mountains, and our guy was up in the mountains. And then we bombed all the roads leading to the mountains. And so they couldn't get their cars in. They didn't have much ability to fly, but they were still a constant threat. There were thousands of them. This was a huge prize. This could have pivoted the whole war. Everything we've done since March the 1st could have gotten pivoted if they've gotten our guy. We got him first. We got him, and he's out of there, and he's safe. And it is the most remarkable story. I said it repeatedly on Friday, and I think we're all wrong. I kept saying this is like a movie script.
Well, I was just actually thinking about that, right? So,
yeah.
Behind Enemy Lines is the movie that popped up to my head. It's that Owen Wilson movie with Gene Hackman.
Almost rewatched it this weekend.
It kind of reminded me that whole, as you were painting that picture, and you did an excellent job just kind of painting that picture, right? Of like just a short synopsis of how that feat just kind of happened, and like how they rescued the pilot. That popped into my head because I'm like, man, I got to go watch it because I was like, it just reminded me. It just popped into my head. And this is
so much like that movie, but not. Here was my point about the movie, AJ, and this is more dramatic than any movie that's ever been written about this. Any book I've read all of these Tom Clancy books with scenarios like this. There are other writers that write this. Behind Enemy Lines is one that immediately comes to mind. It's not nearly as dramatic as all this. It didn't involve as many people. Have you seen the movie all the way through, AJ?
Yes, I have.
I mean, it's definitely an effort to get our guy. We're not going to leave our guy, right? We talked about this on Friday. But this was our whole, think about this, from the president all the way down to the smallest helicopter pilot that's piloting the smallest, most vulnerable craft. They were all dialed in. The president was in there surrounded by his advisors. He never left his focus. All the way into Hegseth, who's been the most remarkable Secretary of Defense in my lifetime. In my lifetime. This is the third mission that just has wowed the world. Think about it. The Maduro snatch, hitting Fordham with no leaks. And I got to talk about leaks here in a minute. And then this thing, you're going to have casualties. You're going to have losses when you're shooting at another country and flying over their territory. And we got our guy back. And we did it. Again, it wasn't flawless, but despite the flaws, they still pulled it off despite the planes getting stuck. They had redundancy. We had so many people. The CIA's piling in with their expertise. Our aviators are the best in the world. We had intelligence coming from other nations that were helping us. It's just stunning. And this is, I guess this is my point. I'm probably going to be all over the place today because I could talk about nothing but this till 6 o'clock. And there's almost not another story right now. I mean, this thing is still breathtaking. The more I go back over it, I think I understand what happened. Hollywood couldn't write this. This is better than any movie script. Hollywood, and that's not even just an indictment on how lame Hollywood's gotten and talentless they seem and lacking in creativity. This is real world stuff. This wasn't fantasy. It wasn't some famous actor being cast to be the hero. There was a lot of heroes. All the way from and I'm going to give Trump credit for having the resolve to say, we're going to get this guy and we're going to use everything we got. And you know what they did? The gloves are off, the handcuffs were off, and they got him. Let me give a contrast. And it's not just a Biden bash, but I've heard too many liberals are trying to find something to cling to in this moment because they want this war to fail. Let me repeat that. They want the American Army and Navy and Air Force, Marines, all of our assets. They want us to fail so that Trump fails. So they're pulling for men and women in our military to be killed or held captured. I will 100% promise you these dark, devious people that are caught up in this derangement against the president were hoping that pilot got captured by the Iranians. I 100% believe that. And so as they hoped for one thing, the rest of us hoped for something else. And our guys were victorious, and it was amazing. And here's how I know that. Trump today put forth that there's a leaker. And this was very dramatic. He almost said it without any inflection in his voice in that long news conference. He said there was a leaker in the early stages of this that leaked information to the Iranians, and he alluded that it came from a media source that had picked up on this information, or the leaker might have been an intermediary, but they got the information to the Iranians that indeed we had 2 men down in their country. There was a time period where the Iranians didn't even know that. That, I think, was how we were able to get in and get the first pilot so quickly undetected, even over their airspace in daylight. We had the power of the knowledge that they didn't have. But the leak alerted them to the down pilot and the missing pilot, the fact that we had not recovered him. And so that led to the bounty. That led to thousands of people running toward the mountains to try to help the regime. Others were running interference against the regime. It was incredible what was going on, even on the ground with the Iranians on their side of the story. But it was a leaker, a traitorous leaker from somewhere within the command structure and or in the media atmosphere that gets access to this kind of information that let the Iranians know. And now the question is, who was that? Can they find them? And will they be prosecuted? Trump indicated today that they 100% are going to be prosecuted and should be. They should be hung by a rope in public on live television so we can all watch it. Call it barbaric. That is treason. And the punishment of treason is still death. And they put this man's life in danger, and everybody else that had to rescue him was even further endangered by the fact that somebody wanted to ingratiate themselves with our enemy from our side. That is straight treason. And I don't think when we find out the name, I don't think it'll be anybody you know. You'll have the internet all afternoon today. We'll be speculating that it was this guy or that guy. I don't think it's going to be that simple. But that's amazing. That element alone is amazing. There's so many angles on this thing. Even the silly stuff like have you seen the American Eagle underwear that the Iranians found out in the middle of nowhere? They found some patriotic red, white, and blue underwear that somebody on this mission had on. I don't know if it was our downed pilots or the aviators. I don't know. Then it was one of the guys rescuing them. But at some point, somebody left behind some American Eagle red, white, and blue underwear. That underwear class, that underwear has sold out today online. You can't find it. Just ahead. You better go ahead and order now if you want some for July 4th, if that's how you roll. Because anyway, they were holding it up as if they had evidence that they had captured the pilot. Y'all, there's so much to talk about with this, and I will. We've got plenty of time. We got a long form show. AJ, before I go too deeper, I just dove in on this. I couldn't help myself. How was your Easter? I hope it was a good one. Y'all do all right.
Yes. I got back in town yesterday after my trip. I had to do a trip to Baton Rouge, and got back early. Well, it was supposed to be early Sunday, but then it rained, and it kind of my flight got canceled. I was like, oh, Lord, I'm going to be stuck here.
I didn't even know that. I knew you were traveling.
Yeah, and then I got back about noon, and got a chance to just spend time with the family, so it was good.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
It was a nice day, a little gloomy in the morning, but I think it turned out nice for a lot of people. And beautiful pictures. I saw y'all's pretty pictures. Everybody all dressed up online. Yeah. That's nice.
Nice. But I do also got to mention before we go to break, someone made Employee of the Quarter. And I don't think he's going to mention this, so I'm going to throw you on under the bus. I'm talking about Mr. Leland Whaley over here.
You talking about that thing they put in the lobby when there's an employee? I feel like a winner and a loser at the same time. An Employee of the Quarter. What do I get? I get a special parking place?
I don't know. Yeah, you get you get to park right in front of the building.
I get my face on the big screen in the lobby, and nobody ever comes to our lobby anymore. Anyway.
I saw that. I was like,
yeah, I bet you saw that 10-year-old picture that I took when we started this radio station. Doesn't even look like me anymore. Like, who's that kid in the suit?
Oh, those like springtime photos you used to take when you were a kid back in the day.
Well, I'd like to think the Academy, and they love me, AJ. They really love me. Back here in a minute. Yeah, man. Let's do this thing. Leland Live, Talk 99.5, the Knowles Group. First up here on this Monday. Man, let's take a look at the markets while we're talking about Danny and his team. They've been in the green all day, and I've been watching the markets just as a news barometer, not even as an investment barometer, because they're reacting to good news when it stays green, bad news in oil, of course, if it's down. At the same time, I've been tracking the price of oil today, too, all of this hinging on really this whole situation. But the Dow stayed up today. So did the NASDAQ quite a bit. Right now it's at about 90, up 90. Not anything huge, but no volatile swings, no big panic or overexuberance up or down. So to me, that's just fascinating on how whatever the insiders are picking up on with regard to the news cycle. For Danny and his team, though, they're watching a more long-term approach. They're watching a big, wide picture that goes back in time, 100 years, I guess, and then forward in time, so that they can get you to where you need to be, whatever that day is when you're ready to hang it up and let your money work for you. Some of you may have already gotten there. In fact, some of our listeners were in Danny's shop last week and we did our show, came by to say hey, and they're already in retirement zone, but they just wanted a better management. They wanted more clear communication. And as one of my listeners put out one time, they said, we wanted a pay raise, and Danny got us a pay raise, which means your money is producing even better for you. You can do that with the strategies and the advice of the folks at the Knowles Group. Sit down and see if it's a fit. Danny, I always talk about him like a friend because he is. We grew up together, same age, graduated high school together. I've just watched, we keep up with each other in our little town, and he's just done phenomenal work and still goes back home and takes care. Danny hasn't forgotten where we come from. He takes good care of folks back home too, doing all kinds of charity work and philanthropy. He's just a good dude, and got a great family around him there at the practice. And if y'all want to sit down and see if it's a good fit for you, reach out to him at the Knowles Group, Knowles, the KnowlesGroup.com, the KnowlesGroup.com. Okay, one or two more things about the rescue, and there's so much again to talk about. Just the pilot. I mean, there's his story. There's the story in the White House. There's the story of the whole wider military. There's the Iranian side of this. I'd love to know what some of them were thinking while this was going down, because we rained down hell on them. We had A-10s. Anything that moved on the ground toward where we knew that location was, we just destroyed it with drones and those A-10s. And those A-10 pilots are flying low and slow with all that capability, but super vulnerable to one of these guys with a shoulder-fired missile that could take out the aircraft. And then we got a whole nother hostage situation. Hundreds of those people, of our service members, could have died, and they knew that going in. They went anyway. The president knew that going in, and he took the chance. He took the political risk of this being one of the greatest disasters in any presidency in the history of the planet. The point I was going to make, to take a shot at a contrasting situation, and you need to look no further than the way the Biden team botched the Afghanistan withdrawal. And let me just kind of compare some notes. Different country, different circumstances. But here's a country where we had control, and they took the military and the safety aspect out and then had to go back in and got our people killed. They set us up in a kill box, left Americans behind, and left all that equipment behind. And you could barely get the media to criticize it. Then suddenly today, they're worried about the cost of a few planes that we lost. And was it worth it to rescue one man? That's their mission. So you go from a president who would put all that and take all that risk and only lose a few $1 million in planes to get one guy, to a guy who got 13 people killed and left billions behind with these feckless people that were running the Pentagon. General Milley, freaking, what was the guy that dressed like Darth Vader all the time? We had Darth Vader running the show. Men in pencil skirts walking around the Pentagon. It's a different military, man, and these guys are great. Back in a minute. All right, y'all. Michelson Laser Vision. Next up here on the show, I do appreciate Dr. Mark and Dr. Jennifer. Dr. Mark did my surgery, and I felt like I knew I was in good hands because before I even decided to do it, you know, I knew his reputation. I actually had met him several times, and I had a lot of friends to go to Dr. Mark, and they were all nudging me and elbowing me, trying to get me to do it. And I was just squishy, man. I was like, no, I don't want to do surgery. I'm fine with these big plastic glasses. And man, was I so wrong. I really wish I'd looked into it earlier, but I did what I did. And once I went and did the tour and understood what it was about, which is what I'm encouraging you to do. If you're riding down the road right now in glasses or contacts and you got Stockholm syndrome, look that up. You kind of held hostage and you've fallen in love with your hostage taker. In other words, you think, my glasses are fine. They really aren't. They're such a pain. You're not seeing well. You're not seeing as clearly as you would with natural sight. So at least investigate it and get to know them. This is the legendary practice on the cutting edge in the whole country. They're one of the best practices in the country. Right here in Birmingham, one of the first people to ever pull the laser online. And it's gotten better and better and better. One of my friends heard me say the other day, they said, "Are you serious about the scar tissue?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, with this new Contura system, some people did RK and other procedures years ago with other places, and some of that stuff wasn't perfected yet, and it might have left you a little bit with scar tissue and other issues that cause vision problems at night. This new Contura system, under certain circumstances, can fix that, and that's amazing to not only make your natural eyes look better or see better, but to go back in time and fix things that the old technology wasn't able to handle. So go meet with them and get an appointment and just interview them. Let them show you all the risks and benefits, educate yourself, give you a quick exam to see if you're eligible. If you're not, that's disappointing. Now, they have plenty of other options to help you with your eyesight. But, man, if you're eligible and decide to do it, it's your decision. I hope you're as happy as me. I'm going on 7 years, 2015. I love it. MichelsonLaserVision.com. Michelson Laser Vision, downtown UAB Highlands. MichelsonLaserVision.com. All right, back to the pilot rescue. And by the way, it bears noting, and this was brought up in the news conference, I think at some point today too, we're still, I don't know if we've hit the farthest distant record yet, but Artemis 2 is it's live right now. You can watch, and I don't want you to tune away from the show, but Netflix actually has one of their channels up live, and I'm looking at the live picture, and I wish I could show you here on the radio, but I can't. But we're looking at the moon. You can see to the left of the screen, you can see the Artemis space capsule and then the moon in the background. Live interviews going on with the crew as they go further out into space, literally going where no man has gone before, making history on a number of fronts. And bears always mentioning, when we mention Artemis 2, Victor is AJ's frat brother. I'm just saying. Frat brothers representing in space. Have you been following any of it, AJ, this weekend?
I have. It's pretty fascinating. I'm always been fascinated with space. You know, not really get into the whole conspiracy theories of flat Earth and all this other stuff, right, but just the whole operation behind it. Because it seemed like this has been something that once we kind of do the history behind this, like the how this came about. Well, we know that they've been training for years to get to this point.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to see, like, that whole training aspect. Because, once we see them in space, that's like, oh, they're floating, and they're just bobbing and doing all this other stuff. But the work they have to put into it, and then, like, they are out of, how many other different type of astronauts that are already out there? And for them to go through this process and be part of history, man, it's amazing. I think it's a very fascinating story.
One of these guys, when they first did it, and I forget which is which, but one of these guys was selected to be an astronaut. You get into the astronaut program and you wait your turn 16 years ago. And he kept doing his job and kept doing his training, and he finally got the ride. So there's so much to look at just with that story. And I'll get into some of that in a minute. And honestly, that goes to politics too, and I'm going to explain why here in just a minute. Let me just keep rolling with my thoughts. But like America is the most back we've been since the 80s. We just went in and kicked ass and took names and got our guy, like a Rambo movie. And now we're back in space, leading the world. Nobody in the world could do this but us. Combination of private and public sector stuff. And how does all that go back to politics? Just real quick, and I'm not just trying to be cheap and take cheap shots, but as for the space program, Obama canceled that. He just killed it. It wasn't his priority. He had a weird set of priorities to neuter the country and make us weak. And part of that is forever anti-patriotic people. And this is my opinion, but hey, that's why I have a radio show. I'll give my opinion. My whole lifetime, people that hate this country hate it when we win. They hate it when we can say to the other countries, we put a man on the moon, or our country did this. No, they got to go back in history and rewrite history to somehow make us evil or founded on bad things, which is none of that's true. We had some hell of negative history in our country, but we were not founded on poor values or through any kind of theft or corruption any worse than any other country that had ever been founded. But we did amazing things because of freedom, because of the concept that the people were in charge, the government was small, and people had the liberty to chase their dreams and to, I mean, we wouldn't be flying at all if it weren't for some couple of brothers out on a beach in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, flying an experimental plane and getting off the ground for the first time ever. Somebody had to explore that. We had to decide to explore space. And America always wins that. We win the symbolic stuff, and we win on the ground. And it is amazing to be back like this. Now, back to the comparisons, and I was doing this at the bottom of the hour. But with the Biden thing, what got our people killed with the commander-in-chief, whoever he was? I don't know who was given the orders. Nobody knows exactly who was given the orders under that administration. But when they muffed up, they messed up Afghanistan so badly that it wasn't just that incident where the bomb blew up at the Abbey Gate. It was the whole concept of what they were doing. Now think about what they did. They turned the lights off and pulled the military out in the dark of night so that they wouldn't risk politically. Trust me on this. This was a political decision, just like the poor decisions that this country made in Vietnam, which led to our loss there. They made a political decision and a political calculation that they didn't want anybody harmed in the military because the president could take the repercussions for it. So they snuck us out of there. We left that air base and turned the lights off, and that's how the Taliban knew we were gone. We didn't account for the civilians that had to get out as well because the president wasn't directly responsible for them. He was responsible for those, everybody say it together, boots on the ground. Ever since the first Gulf War, it's been about boots on the ground, and boots on the ground is a terrifying phrase if you're the commander-in-chief. You never want to have to do it. But yet they all went and did it anyway. And they got our people killed because they took out our strength for fear that some of these soldiers were going to get killed. This was the sequence. We abandoned the base. Then we left behind all these hostages because the Taliban collapsed that country in a matter of days. And we had people trapped trying to get out of there. And the only way to get them out was to send the military back in. By then, everything had funneled around to this one airstrip. Do you remember the people clinging to the planes, folks begging to be rescued? And because of the hostile situation created by weakness, political weakness, there are lessons in this. I'm trying to teach you youngins, there are lessons in this. We never win as a country by being weak. We never win by taking a cowardly approach. We only win with overwhelming force and strength. Our greatest military victories have always been when we overwhelm the opponent. The public is behind the effort. The president has the courage to do it and willing to take the political risk, and we move forward, period. That's just our history. That's really the history of the world with any government that undertakes something dangerous. If you're willing to take the high risk, high reward chance, if you're a gambler like that, and you have the courage of your convictions, you move forward. Trump's convictions were simple. Iran's not going to have a nuclear bomb. Not on his watch. He's going to end it now. After 47 years of harassment, we're not going to put up with it anymore. We're going to go in there and stop that. We did. We lost a pilot, 2, and we went and got him because the other moral principle there is we don't leave people behind, and we do whatever it takes, despite the political risk, to go get them and save them. That's priority. Even if it's a disaster for me as a president and things go wrong, we're going to execute this mission and do the right thing by that person that we left that's trapped. And we did it. Now, let me give you another example. All of this flooded to my memory just as I was getting ready to come to the air. Moments in time, because I'm thinking about this now In the first part of the show, I tried to articulate just what had happened and paint a picture of the tremendous risk and the whole drama surrounding that whole rescue. But overall, you step outside of that box and just look at the political decisions, the leadership decisions when you're in a crisis and how you respond. And this is a lesson for all of us in life, that you go do the hard stuff for the right reasons. And generally, you've got a better chance of winning by taking those kind of risks than being weak. Weakness, especially with this culture that we're fighting, these theocrats, these maniacs, these suicidal Islamists, they thrive on our weakness. And other presidents have let them thrive because of weakness. Let's go to Obama. I don't even need to talk about his weakness with this same regime and how he handed them cash, tried to be bros. That was never going to work. They thought he was a fool and took advantage of it, made him look like a fool. But remember Benghazi? Anybody remember Benghazi? What an opposite situation for a president to be in. And this is what happened. I'm going to tell y'all what happened. Most of you are plugged in and remember exactly what happened. I was on the air and I was so incensed. We were live when some of this stuff was going down. So Hillary, through our ambassador, Stevens, and Barack Obama, were trying to do regime change in this world. Maybe not unlike the Trump administration, where Trump decides the Iranian regime, he says it's not about that, but if we could get that as a benefit, hell yeah. If we get rid of these crazy people that are running that country and free a nation, yes, that is a nice residual benefit to stopping their capability of killing people. That's the number one mission. So we went in boldly and we control the place. We control the only thing they got left is threatening the strait. That was bold, right? You follow me? You follow me? Everybody? Are we together? Weakness is the whole Benghazi operation. When it was set up, this was a secret weapons funneling outpost set up in a little town called Benghazi in eastern Libya, where we were rounding up guns and weapons, shoulder-fired weapons and others that we put on the ground to help the rebels overthrow Gaddafi. We didn't want our fingerprints on it. So in the cowardly approach, instead of just going in and taking out Gaddafi, if that's what Obama wanted, we snuck in with our assets, with advisors. We fomented a rebellion. Our CIA had a lot to do with that. And we ran those weapons in and caused the upheaval. And Hillary jumped out of the air with her fat ass in a pantsuit and said, "We got him." You remember that? She gleefully talked about us killing Gaddafi. I was no Gaddafi fan, so I wasn't opposed to that. But the way we did it was subterfuge. It was black ops. It was underground. It was without risk to who? That skinny little weird dude in the White House. He was a coward, and he didn't want to take political risk because something might go wrong that could come back to him. Are y'all seeing the contrast right now in previous presidents and what we're dealing with now? I'm preaching right now. Listen. So Obama took the sneaky route to give themselves plausible deniability if something ever went wrong on the ground in Libya. And they pulled off the Gaddafi raid, and then they started rounding those same weapons up using the same business model to go after Syria. Obama talked tough and drew this red line about what he would put up with Assad, and he never backed it up. But on the ground, quietly, we set up a weapons running operation in Benghazi. We kept a low key. There wasn't a big security perimeter around it because they didn't want to draw attention to it. And we were running ships full of guns to Aleppo from Benghazi that night when Al-Qaeda got the intelligence of what we were doing, and that we had all these Americans at this bunker that was weakly guarded, again, because of the cowardice of our administration and the sneakiness of the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton. We had this operation running that got hit by a terror attack, and they were using plain old mortars, and they hit our people and started killing folks. They killed a United States ambassador, and they killed 3 others in an attempt to kill everybody in there. We had these people bravely fight them off in this surprise attack. Then what happened? Let's talk about cowardice right now. So when that attack started, we had 13 hours to go to a place that would have been easy for us to get into. We had military in the region at Aviano Air Base in Italy. We had assets that could have been there in minutes, at least flying air cover, to give Tyrone and those guys on the ground a shot at defending that facility. And we know what we did? Nothing. They woke up Barack Obama in the middle of the night and he went back to sleep. That's a fact. Hillary Clinton was afraid to give any orders. She didn't have the authority. We let them die and let them stranded for 13 hours and never actually got real help on the ground in that entire invasion. That was pure cowardice. One, because Obama was afraid of the political consequences coming back on him if the gun running operation were discovered. Two, they were afraid to send boots on the ground or send the right resources to do the right thing and just to get our people back. Are y'all following the parallel? To me, this is more analogous or a better moral parallel than even the Abbey Gates situation. Here, 2 weak presidents back to back that wouldn't do the right thing and were afraid of the political consequences and the risk, and we got people killed over it. So they didn't act swiftly, then covered their asses. Do you remember how they covered themselves after that? They made up a fake story, just like they did with the Russian hoax, that this was about just a bunch of people pissed about a propaganda video that was on YouTube. They were covering for the fact that it was a terror hit on a secret facility, and their response was poor. They went to the Dover ceremony when we brought the caskets back and stood there on live. They brought live TV cameras with them. You rarely see that. And lied to those family members about that video thing that they completely made up and fabricated in the middle of the night to cover for themselves. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And you should thank the Lord every day you get up that insidious woman never became president of the United States. She is evil in a pantsuit. And that was the full depiction of it in that moment. Now, the opposite is what we saw this weekend. Regardless of how you feel about whether we went in for the right reasons or not, a president has to sit there and make the call. And the risk in this situation of sending hundreds of troops, dozens of aircraft and air power over a known army that even though we've been bombing for a month, still has tremendous capability. They've already demonstrated that by taking down an F-15. They could have taken out any of those craft. They could have caused chaos with this mission. And what did Trump do? He took the risk for the right reason. We're going to get our guy back. We're not going to leave him. We're not going to create this. We're going to get our guy back. And knowing that, these operators that had to get on those craft and execute their training had the confidence of the commander-in-chief who's willing to take the risk and the political fallout upon himself and went in there and damn did it. America. And now we're watching our other heroes go around the moon today. I feel like I'm reliving the 80s. Y'all, some of you young people don't remember how good it felt to be an American in the 80s. Some of us still believe it. Ox Foundation Solutions bringing you the show tonight. Let's talk about your foundation. If you're doing any kind of work, I got some construction. I'm going to do some home projects here pretty soon. It may involve an encapsulation. We're still working on some issues with the design, but if it's a little bit of a crawl space under this new portion, there's going to be some encapsulation because I wouldn't build it without it. Immediately, I have Ox over here to do that work because I want it done right. I want it to last for years. Encapsulation it is absolutely necessary with the heat and humidity that we have here in the South. All that creeps into your home, makes you sick. Man, you end up with allergens and mold spores in your home. Y'all reach out to them at Ox and let them come take a look, whether it's water in there, a shifty house. That can happen, or slightly shifty house because you've noticed something's out of whack and you've seen some cracks. Get those fixed early and do it with the best people in the business. Their website is oxstrong.com, oxstrong.com. Back here in a minute. Man, I was trying to think about the things at Huey Tampon that have been the most popular since they came on the show. I think the Glocks, when you can get those Glocks, those pre-owned Glocks for sale, those are always popular. But I think the thing that lit y'all up right around Christmas was these AR-12 shotguns. These things are cool. I mean, somebody texted me one time and said, "Why would anybody need that? You don't need anything. You just want one." They're $279 right now at Hueytown Pawn, and these are incredible looking. They've got them in that very popular bronze color. I call it bronze. Some people, it's kind of that desert color. I got a couple of weapons. They're in this color scheme, and people just love them. They're kind of popular. So it's an AR type platform with the ergonomics of an AR weapon, but it's in the 12 gauge format, I guess you would say, 12 gauge platform. So people love them. They always snap them up, and Tommy always puts them on a great price. That's an incredible price. If you're looking for anything over at Hueytown Pawn, y'all there on Brook Lane Drive. Hueytown Pawn on Brook Lane Drive for all kinds of gun purchases. We had a great call last week. Somebody had popped in there and said, "Man, you weren't kidding. That's a great little gun shop." Not to mention you get to know Tommy and everybody there, and now you got a personal connection and a resource in that whole industry. $279 for an AR-12. Yeah, buddy. Hueytown Pawn, while they last, they'll sell quickly. Hueytown Pawn. All right, AJ, let me get my screen pulled up. I got a little screen issue today. You might have to tell me who is up and who is ready to go as we get the calls lined up. I think we got time to at least get one in here. AJ, who you got, man?
We got Dale in Bibb County.
Well, let's go with Dale then. What's up, Dale? How's it going?
Hey, how y'all doing today?
Doing well.
Good. I just want to say shout out to all the ones who like the fake news. When things get bad and you're in danger, and we know that you're going to want to turn to the channel and the radio stations in 99.5 with Leland and AJ and Dixon and Vining, and y'all happy. Go USA. Love y'all.
America. Yeah, you ain't kidding. I wanted me some of those American Eagle fancy underwear, but y'all went and bought them up before I could find out about it. But maybe I'll get some for Christmas. You never know. All right, cool day to be an American. We got a lot to talk about. I can't wait to hear some of y'all's reaction after all that nervousness and tension on Friday and over the weekend. I almost couldn't put my phone down trying to keep up with it. And it was just amazing when we found out that they had pulled that off. More to talk about with it and live updates on everything else when we come back. Here's the 1819 News, Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Y'all stay tuned.